If you are speaking this evening, we ask that you please sign in. We also ask that you please direct all comments, questions, and concerns to this board. Speak to the podium. If any matters have to be discussed with one another, please take it in the hallway. It interferes with our opportunity to hear those that are speaking. And as always, we're going to be courteous to one another this evening and courteous of time as well. We're going to start this evening's applications with first opening the meeting. Motion to open, please.
I make a motion to open the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for August 10th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to the August 10th, 2015 meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation. My name is Curtis Highsmith, and I'm your chair. I'd like to introduce our panel. We have Jeff Rodlieb, Christina Redding, Esther Pastor, Brian Brady. We'd like to welcome our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth, our legal counsel, Bo Robinson, and as always, Antoinette, we welcome you. We're going to start this evening's meeting with signs and first application, please.
First application is Robert A.M. Stern Architects.
Denise from Hampton Signs.
This will be a site sign, correct?
Yes, it is.
Just name the company and the phone number. No website, no
As you see it there,
email.
black
Very
and
good.
white.
Thank you very much. Any
Simple
questions?
as it gets.
Any questions?
Perfect.
Any issue with the sign?
No.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
Make a motion that we approve the sign for Robert A.M. Stern Architects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next application, please.
Next application is for Guard Hill Financial Corp.
Is this awning and sign or just sign?
Just sign.
Just sign. Is there anything there now, or is it just
No.
big? All right, so this is the color of the sign, correct font? Little logo on the side with the name of the company.
Yes, exactly.
Will it be any type of lantern, any backlit, or
No?
no lanterns, no goose downs? It's just the
What
sign.
you see.
Ryan, any comments?
No, I have no issue with
Esther?
it.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's good by me.
Any public comment on the application? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve God Hill Financial Court sign on Main
Second.
Street.
Second.
All in
Thank you
favor?
very much.
Aye.
Concludes our sign permits for this evening. We go into our historic applications for this evening. First application, historic. Council?
First application is the Village of Southampton for the clock in Agawam Park.
The file
Closed.
contains a written decision approving the clock in the amended location. An affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the application.
Motion to approve written decision by council for approval of Village of Southampton, Agawam. This is the clock
I
tower.
make a motion that we approve the Village of Southampton application for in Agawam Park for the clock tower, the written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I called it a freestanding clock. Clock tower gives it a little bit more stature than it's probably entitled to.
But just as a point of question, I had voted nay on that,
Did-
so.
Yeah, no, did you get that, Antoinette, 4-1?
Okay.
Yeah, I was the nay on that. Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Thomas Makos, 136 Main Street.
Is the applicant present? This is the third time we've seen, I'm sorry, is this the third no-show or
Second.
second no-show?
At least the second.
Yeah, I must be the second because we didn't say anything about asking for.
Okay, we sent out a letter to the applicant to find the update. The applicant doesn't respond after a second letter, then we will withdraw the application from our agenda. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Thomas Makos at 136 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application is 784 Meadow Lane.
Is that written decision by council?
No.
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 Okay, sorry.
Next.
See if they have small sets.
May I begin? Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Tohill. I'm here representing 784 Meadow Lane. This is the alteration of an existing non-contributing structure on, of course, Meadow Lane. I'm accompanied here this evening by William Vincent and John Burson, who are the architects. John Burson will make a presentation within a few minutes. Lisa Poyer is here behind me from InterScience. Tim Rump is here as well, a familiar face to each of you, not planning to make a presentation except as need arises. You have 19 matters on the calendar tonight. I'm not going to speak any longer. I should report to you that we have consulted with representatives of each of the two neighbors, east and west. There's no objection to the proposal. So with that, I'm pleased to turn the microphone over to John Burson, who will make a presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to hear our application.
We didn't have a choice.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. I think I set myself up for that one. But I will try to keep things brief because I know we have a very lengthy agenda. My name is John Burson. My firm is Sawyer Burson in New York City. With me is William Vincent, our project manager, also Lisa Poyer from InterScience, Tony Toa, who will give the introduction, and Tim Rumpf. Our firm, we are architects, landscape architects, and interior designers.
Hold on a second, because I believe there's, whose phone's ringing? You just need your phones off, please.
Oh, you can't? I tend to
Thank
skip. Is that better? Okay, sure. We are the architects and landscape architects for this property. Tim Rumpf is the landscape architect for the dune restoration. The project is the renovation and addition to an existing modern house from the 1970s. It's on a 4.4-acre site overlooking the ocean on Meadow Lane. The house was completed in about 1974, and it is a flat-roofed, very orthodox modern structure. It has very horizontal lines, horizontal bands of windows. It sits on a foundation consisting of driven wood piles. The main floor is at grade, and there is a partial lower floor. The existing structure is about 6,700 square feet. Currently 19 feet 9 inches to the top of the center pavilion of the house, and then 13 feet 10 inches to the top of the wings. The current exterior cladding is vertical red cedar with a beige yellow stain. It has clear anodized aluminum windows that are very much of the period when it was built. It has wood decks, opaque stained, some aluminum roll-up shutters, and an existing pool. We believe the house is existed principally in the condition as it was built, with very, very minor work done to the interior through the years. The owners were looking to expand the house, but also to enhance its character as a beach house. While the original house is somewhat hermetic, with many opaque surfaces, the owners wanted to create a warmer, more open feeling with the additions to the structure. The owners were also very intent on utilizing as much of the existing house as possible, and we've taken this very seriously as a renovation and addition. Architecturally, the original house has an elegant and logical plan and is beautifully sited, and we have used that plan and siting. The proposed house is, well, here's the site. Oops, let's do it this way. Ocean to the top, Meadow Lane to the bottom. Here is the existing house, actually preserving much of the original footprint. There's the tennis court, for which a variance was obtained. We have tiered the site because there's a fairly steep grade change as one ascends. Our proposed
What
house.
percentage of increase in footprint?
I can give you that in one sec. It is in footprint. Okay. Including the tennis court, we are, let's see, existing, it is 9,000 square feet, including the tennis court. We are still complying. We've gone from 6.5% to 11.3% coverage. Maximum is 14%.
The red dotted line, is that the representation of existing?
Yes, the red dotted line here, as you can see, is the existing structure. We have added a second floor to the west wing and a second floor to the east wing. The center pavilion is as built. We are compliant with the 27-foot height limit for flat roof structures. And here you can see a photo of the existing conditions, and then with a rendering of the house as viewed from Meadow Lane with the addition and renovation.
So you're saying the second photo beneath,
That's proposed,
that's proposed?
yes.
And I guess the viewpoint is that there's no major impact to the streetscape.
Yes, that's the intent. Okay. And then from the beach side, here is existing, and then here is right there, and then here is proposed. And again, from this view, you can see the existing structure. There's the center pavilion, once again, that's not being added to. And then the additions to the west wing and east wing. And then you can see a further west wing added. And we'd like to point out, though, that with the subtraction of part of the east end of the house, we've increased the overall length by just 6 feet 2 inches. So we like to think there's not been a substantial increase in length. We are proposing cladding in a warm wood. Here are some of the colors we've been considering. There are overhanging eaves that have been tapered to minimize their thickness. We are utilizing existing pile foundation. Silman is engaged as the structural engineer and RA Consultants as the pile consultant. A very sophisticated load test of 60 tons is being conducted in the next few days. We are very intent on augmenting and not re-drilling piles. So the proposed gross floor area is 11,215 square feet. We are still at 19 feet 9 inches to the top of the center pavilion, 26 feet 10 inches to the top of the other two wings. We are also looking to use, in addition to the planks, dark bronze anodized windows, which we think give a somewhat more subtle appearance than the existing aluminum ones. You can hold up, we have ribbed wood siding for these vertical elements that you see here. Again, using wood.
Can you bring that forward, please?
Okay.
Hidden. And you're using words such as,
Yes.
Cedar. I'm assuming you're proposing, this is part of your proposal, that the
Yes.
materials that you're proposing this evening
Yep.
are what you're proposing as for your application, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
No, you were saying I'm looking to use. so
Oh,
just wanna make sure.
sorry about that. Just understood. We've been looking at the feasibility of teak or mahogany. So
Either or, which,
I think we're leaning towards mahogany. Let's say mahogany. Okay?
so just trying to get a firm
Sure.
materials that are being
Sure.
used rather
Absolutely.
than the assumption. of-
Absolutely. And then bleached wood decking, zinc and lead-coated copper flashings. There will be some wood-framed pergolas and trellis, and then laminated safety glass guardrails. With regard to the site, we are seeking to reuse the existing, where'd it go? The existing pool shell, which is right up here, and reline it. And with the tennis court is framed in board-formed concrete walls.
Ryan, any comments?
No, I think it's a beautiful addition renovation. I love the tapered overhangs. I think that's a great touch for it. No, I think it's a beautiful job.
Christine, any comments?
No, I think it belongs right where it's going.
Esther?
I think that it's a seamless addition to an existing house, a really reconstructive repurposing of the house and doing it in the best possible way. Also, the presentation is beautifully, beautifully done, very detailed, answering all our questions, extremely detailed, and it's barely discernible from the street and the ocean side. It's quite wonderful.
Jeff?
Nothing to add to that, thank you.
Landscape plan, you really don't need detail, any addition to, or what will be added to parcel to further screen it, or if any. So if you can just briefly just go over the landscape plan.
Yes, the landscape. Tim, if you want to talk a little bit, I'll just, and then I can add anything that.
Mr. Chairman, board members, Tim Rump from Aris Design. We're located at 38 Nugent Street, Southampton. We are working with Sawyer Burson on the site development. As John alluded to, we did get our variance for the tennis court, and you'll see that we did show some evergreen screening along the western property line to augment the visual impact of that tennis court to the neighbors. There will be, as John spoke about, the terracing, and we will be reusing a lot of the plant material that's on the site. If you've driven by the site, the front of the site is heavily vegetated. There are a lot of invasive species that we will be removing and taking away, such as Russian olive, Rosa rugosa, and the like. And there is some diseased black pine that we'd like to get out off the site as soon as possible. So that's the intent of the landscape, is to really get back into the native material that we know exists. And
So you're
can
taking
function.
out diseased and damaged and vegetation that has been unkept, untaped.
Yeah.
Will you be replacing it with lichen kind, or?
Yeah, we will be replacing it with the Kettlerite juniper, chinensis, some Hollywood juniper, and all of the native material that's going to grow there to augment the screening from Meadow Lane as well as the east and west sides.
Board members, any questions about the landscape plan? Any deep? Is there any public comment on the application? Nothing further from the board, no comments from the public, no further comments from our board itself. Historic consultant, is any comments, questions, concerns, issues that we should be aware of? It is in a historic district and therefore at least entitles a comment from our historic consultant.
Well, only, I think this is a wonderful addition, and given a house of this quality, by the time we collectively get around to expanding the contributing resources in the district, this one might be old enough to be considered. And so we like to look ahead. So I would say in 10 or so years, we'll probably consider this a contributing resource in the district. So it's good to see it enlarged and simplified.
You're saying we're a part of history, Zach?
Some, more or less, yeah.
Yeah. No. All right, no public comment. Applications in the properties located within the historic district. There's no opposition of this board for it to go to another meeting, therefore, we will close the application for this evening for written decision. We'll have our council prepare that at our next meeting. Any further comments? Anything further from the board?
No.
Anything further from the public? Motion to close the application for written decision.
I make a motion that we close this application for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll give you some time to clear.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. While we're cleaning here, we have next application which is written decision by council. Council?
In the file is a decision approving the amendment as per consensus of the board. An affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the application.
Motion to approve written decision by council.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by council for 371st Nick Lane LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that all ayes?
Yes.
Ayes. Okay. Next application, written decision by council.
On the same format, the consensus of the board was to approve the application, and that followed by the written decision. An affirmative vote on the decision will be, on the motion will be to approve the application.
Motion to approve written decision by council for the 1901 trust.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by council for the 1901 trust at 56 Linden Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application is Antonio Farnos.
And you're recusing.
Yes. Antonio, I'm recused on this.
My name is Franco Biscardi, Vice President of Brady Design. I'd like to start by clearing up a misperception concerning the size of the addition for the house. The notice that was sent to the neighbors states that we are proposing to add 3,370 square feet to the existing house, when in fact the existing house is 3,370 square feet, and we're only adding 700 square feet. Here's a copy of the notice.
Yes, that was a pretty big boo-boo.
We are not doubling the size of the house. This is a very modest addition. In fact, we are only extending the house 4 feet into the rear yard. Here is the site plan.
There was further clarification in terms of what was being proposed, what existed. Thank you for the shaded area so we can get a better idea of what is existing and what is being proposed. We appreciate that. Zach, I don't believe you were here at the last meeting, but with regards to the structure itself, is it a contributing structure?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have conducted a site visit.
So we'll need you to give your, you have the stage.
Well, as we know, it's a colonial revival style house, somewhat unusual in the fact that it has a stucco wall finish, which was one of many choices in the period. Beautifully sited, very well screened from the street, of course. It has a one-story sunroom or former porch, which has been enclosed much more recently. It's clearly been enclosed. There's a wonderful copper beach just off to the west of that smaller addition, which, as I read the plans, is going to be fully preserved in this project, which is extremely important. This is not a tree committee, but with a tree of that distinction, I think it's important to point that out. The extension to the back is, I think, either one or perhaps 2 windows deep. I mean, it's a very modest extension. It won't be seen from the street. It's being styled to repeat the architecture of the main house, and it's, as the applicant has stated, it's quite modest in size. So I see no problem with the project at all. I think it's very sympathetic to the existing house.
Okay. Structure itself, and when built, will have no negative impact to the period, time, architecture of the existing structure. In no way at all will it relate or read differently or significantly alter its historical significance. That's what you're saying.
And Zach, would you address the question of going from stucco to shingle, please? Your comments on that.
Well, I think the more typical siding of that style house in the period would have been either shingle or clapboard. So the stucco kind of drifted in from the Mediterranean or the Spanish revival houses, which were also typical or popular in the period, but that was a more unusual type of siding. I think the actual style of the house is as well presented with shingle or clapboard siding as it is with stucco. I don't think that really changes the architecture. It will change the appearance somewhat, but it won't change it to the point that it would seem inappropriate to the style of the building. So in that sense, it's really just the siding. It's not, in other words, people with tile roofs, for example, oftentimes for reasons of economy, because they're so expensive to restore or replace, we'll go with a wood shingle or a composition shingle as an alternative. So I think the siding itself does not change the architecture of the building. And in this case, the proposed siding is entirely appropriate to the style of the house, so it doesn't change the architecture. It will change the appearance of it, but so would painting it a strange color would very much change the appearance of it. But I don't think it doesn't compromise the integrity of the house.
Did you see either view the minutes from the last meeting or see the video from the last meeting?
I didn't see the video.
Okay, because there was some dialogue and
Okay.
some historic
Yeah.
information that was given during that time, that period where I think would have been something you're interested in seeing or
I would be
reviewing.
interested in seeing that, but
Okay.
I don't think it would change my.
Well, I'm sure when doing public comment, it will be echoed. All right.
At the last meeting, the board did not have any issues with the architectural design of the house, but there was a neighbor objection to the design. Brian Brady met with Mrs. Carson and learned that her concerns have to do with the alterations to an historic house, what is allowed, and also privacy issues. The privacy issues are being addressed by landscaping.
Would you have a copy of?
Here's a landscape plan showing evergreen screening that is being proposed along the property line.
Tell us specifically where the impact of the privacy concern will be either screened properly and let us know exactly what's being.
I think I handed out one too many. I need one to point
You
out.
need one back?
Yeah.
And a question, has the landscaping plan been reviewed with the neighbor?
Yes, Brian met with Mrs. Carson today and reviewed the screening that's being proposed, which seemed to alleviate the privacy concerns. Specifically, the addition to the house looks toward this spot. So in this spot, which is number 4 on your
Can we
plan.
give location, north, south, east, west, property line, that's, just so we can build a record?
North, west. West on the property line, number 4 on your plan, top center. And that's the area with the 16 to 18 foot Green Giant evergreen screening.
And this has been discussed with the neighbor as well, correct?
It has.
All right, well, just see if there's any public comment. There's public comment, please step forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Lori Carson.
Bring the microphone just down.
Sure. Is that better? Lori Carson, 112 Herrick Road. I spoke to you at the last meeting. Brian and I have met twice. I am very appreciative that he reached out to me to clarify some of the intent of this project. I was relieved to see that the public notice was at least incorrect in regard to scale. So I was happy about that. The only concessions the neighbors have made to date are the landscaping ones. And so I would like to say that I still have issues with privacy, but mostly with historic preservation. I understand the records for Herrick Road are missing, so I appreciate that the owners nor the architectural firm were aware of the historic relevance of these 3 homes, but they do now know the history based on what I set forth at the last meeting. So I've listened to what Zach has had to say, but I would really like this board to help me understand your role in historic preservation and preserving the integrity of our neighborhood. And as you know, these homes, there are 3, They've stood there for 100 years, unaltered in any way. And now the exterior alterations that are being suggested are quite extensive. It's not just the siding. The siding is going from stucco to shingle. The tile roof is going from tile to cedar shingles, I believe. The front porch is being redesigned, and the sunroom is being demolished. So if you combine all of those characteristics together, the character of this home is being significantly altered. Quite frankly, it's going to be a different house, as you would see it from the street. It almost says, what aren't they changing? Because it's really a complete change. To me, the demolition of the sunroom is particularly troubling because that was an original part of the facade of these three homes. It wasn't an addition, it was there originally. I think replacing it with an open pergola is not in harmony with these homes, and it is certainly not a unifying look with these three homes that stand next to each other. In the non-historic part of this house, my concern was the third floor dormer. They're adding one dormer that faces north-south. This other dormer is facing west towards my yard. It's in the third story, and it looms large over my backyard. The landscaping plan would alleviate some of that privacy issue. But as I said to Brian, landscaping sometimes dies. It's not always permanent. Dormers on the third floor are permanent. As this board is aware, in 1994, there was a zoning law on the book that allowed a tennis court to go in on this property. In 1999, that zoning law changed so that no longer can a tennis court go on these properties. However, the impact that it has had on me as a neighbor is permanent. So I ask you to consider these things. These changes that you are making to this house is permanent. The dormer is permanent. And I think, we can all reflect that this is the 375th anniversary of this village. These homes have stood there for 100 years. They contribute to the historic relevance of this village. They back up to the old burial ground. No one has really talked about the vista that is going to be seen from the old burial ground to the back of this house, which is altered. The age of these homes are to be considered, and also the fact that they were built and lived in by prominent village officials and family members who have significantly contributed to the history of this village, and I would really hate to see some of that history lost. So I would just say that based on the historical perspective of these homes, that I would not recommend that this application be approved without some real revisions. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you so much. Any further public comment?
Yes, I'm Sheila Fuchs, and I live at 98 Herrick Road in one of the three Cameron houses, which is virtually identical to the house at 124 Herrick Road. I think Lori has voiced all of our concerns, and I also want to reiterate that we are not the only two people from Herrick Road here, that we have a number of people that are deeply concerned about this project. I know they say they're only adding 700 square feet, but they are altering the house dramatically. I have one serious question. In the plans, it says in the basement of this house, they're going to be adding a screening room, a media room.
What happens in the basement is not...
Well, I need to have a question answered. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a gym, and I think a wine cellar. Currently, the basement is only 7.5 feet high. I don't know how these additions are going to be made to have all of that in the basement of a house, because all the basements are the same in these 3 houses. I don't know how that is all going to be put into a basement where you have a 7.5-foot ceiling. Are they going to excavate? Are they going to lift the house up off its structure?
I'll go back to my original comment. It's not within his purview to discuss how he will lift, what his building process or procedure will be. We're an aesthetic board, so our responsibility is to look at the aesthetics. We're an aesthetic board. So if he brings a set of plans forward, and he says that this is the plan that we're proposing, the building department reviewed that to make recommendations on whether they felt it was a viable set of plans, and it was possible.
But if it works in a historic context, if it's a 100-year-old house, isn't it relevant that they're going to take the house off its foundation to add the structure in the
That has
basement?
not been part of their application, that they were lifting the house to make to make an addition.
Well, I'd
or
like it
making
answered as to
alterations.
how they expect to
Have you-
do this.
My
I
question
don't know.
is, you had a conversation with Mr. Brady?
I did not.
You did not. He did not reach out to you.
No, he did not.
Did anyone from his office reach out to you?
No one from his office
Have you
reached out.
reached out to him to ask some of these questions about the?
No, I don't feel I have to. I thought I could ask here.
You would have to ask the builder.
Mr. Brady is supposed to have recused himself, but I know
He
he's
has.
standing right here. He listens to everything, so I'd like to have that answered. I think it's historically important. I don't know why you need a media room and a gym and two bathrooms and two bedrooms and a...
Whatever the applicant needs inside of their home is not within the purview of this board to discuss.
Okay.
How it looks after it's built is,
But it is historical in that it would have to be lifted off its foundation.
you're stating that to be the case.
I can't imagine they could do it any other way.
Okay, thank you.
And I also would like to ask that this application not be approved.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Curtis, sorry, can
Yes,
I just ask
you have to
one-
step forward.
just one thing? In respect to the historic nature of these homes, I would love it if we could have Zach review the video and the minutes from the last meeting when I spoke about a little bit more in depth about the history of these houses.
Okay, thank
We
you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Zach, as you heard this afternoon or this evening, there was some relevant information given that I think is viable for you to make a further, at least before making a final determination or understand everyone, for the record, that Zach is not a voting party of this board. He is a person who we consider to be an expert and historic consultant. He is a consultant of this board, and we weigh on his decision very heavily. But at the end of the day, this board makes its own ruling. We make our own vote. He is not a voting party of this board. But we do empower him to do the review of our, especially structures within the historic district, and come back with a full report. I really think that it's something that, before making a final determination, you should see all of the relevant information, especially data and information that was given at the last meeting.
Yeah.
I gave him the minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the minutes.
Any other further public comment? I would also suggest to the applicant that in reviewing this third-story dormer, which, again, I don't know what's in that third story preview. Typically, we like, and I think we've like to start looking more towards applications that come up with an extension or an addition. That addition be in a form subservient to the original structure. Something that that has always been a part of this board's review in past times. I think we went away from it for some time now, and I think that in light of some of the changes that are being done, we should start reviewing that so that we can truly identify what will be what is existing, what will be proposed, and also because of the impact that large dormer would have to a neighborhood. Screening aside, you just can't put up a tree and say that's screening sometimes. Maybe we had a little less impact on the third floor. Christine, any questions?
No more questions.
Jeff, any questions?
No questions. Zach is going to review it, as he said. I think the neighbors have raised some legitimate concerns, particularly in regards to the material use. I think when you see, Zach, the video from the last time, Ms. Carson had laid out the historical context of that. So I'll table any further questions till Zach has a
Esther?
chance to review.
Any further comments?
No, I'm in agreement to keep the application open.
All right, so we're going to keep the application open now. Again, I take into consideration maybe the addition, a little more servient to the original structure, take view in terms of impact to that neighbor. You're putting a large bay window directly in their living space. Maybe if you table down that second story or in some way minimize the amount of impact, that would be helpful. But it's just, these are things that are recommendations that, as a board, we would ask, so at least you can take in consideration. If there's nothing further from the public, nothing further from the board, we're going to adjourn the application to our next meeting. Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Antonio Fanos at 124 Herrick Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wasn't the neighbor should talk to her.
Talk to who?
The neighbor should have the conversation.
Oh, I don't know how many times we can say that.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
No, that's my minute.
Next application is for 354 South Main LLC for driveway gates.
Good evening. Hello to the board. My name is Perry Guillo, a landscape architect for this project, 354 South Main Street. And the application is for driveway gates, automatic driveway gates. There was a pre-existing set of gates there with brick pillars and a granite top that dated for a long, long time. The gate itself was not old, but the pillars were original. We're using the same layout of the brickwork on the pillars, but setting it further away from the edge of the road. In this case, it's going to go, I believe it's shown on the plan, at 22 feet set in. So the design of the gate borrows the lattice elements that are on the porte cochere, and it represents like a 50-50 bit of transparency. You can see in the photograph that device of the lattice. It matches the same scale and the materials of the house itself.
50% transparency?
Yes.
Lattice underneath is how high?
The panel, the V-joint board, shown here, you have the 10 and the 2 feet 5. That would be 40 inches plus the 3 inches, 43 inches about.
The brick, is it painted or?
Painted white,
Painted
like
white.
the brick elements on the house will be.
Lanterns, are they frosted or are they clear?
They're black matte,
Interesting.
which was there before.
Okay.
They're the old, we're going to replicate what was there before.
Brian, any comments?
No, I think it's great.
Thank you.
Esther?
It's beautiful, integrated beautifully with the house.
Christine?
No, I think it's great.
Jeff?
Okay.
Any public comment on the application? Transparency is not an issue. I think it ties in very well with the prop. You understand the driveway gates, even though it seems like a small and minute application, and it is in a historic district and therefore requires written decision by council. So we'll empower our council to prepare that at our next meeting. Any questions?
No.
Motion to close for written decision.
I make a motion that we close for written decision the application of 354 South Main LLC for the driveway gates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That concludes our historic applications for this evening. First application, non-historic.
First application is Robert Geary, 475 Hill Street.
Lisa Zaloga, architect for Robert Gary. In the file is the revised surveys and landscape plans. Tim Rumpf is here to discuss any questions that you have with that. The hedge was located by Squires and Holden. If you remember at the last meeting.
There was some issues with regards to the egress into your parcel.
Correct.
So you've changed that.
Yes, we have. The opening that is, do you have the landscape plan? The opening that currently exists between two pieces of hedge will remain where it is. That's where our driveway will now come through. The Squires and Holden located the hedge. They say that the hedge to the west of that entrance is in fact on our property, and the hedge to the east is in fact on Mr. Pressman's right-of-way.
If you could pick that up and turn it to the camera.
just to clarify, we were never cutting down the hedge, we were relocating it.
Relocating his hedge.
We were relocating his hedge. You know, he has an entrance to his guest cottage that is right adjacent to our current driveway entrance. And after speaking with Barbara Missett, she thought that it would be more pleasant for everybody involved if the entrance was further east. But if Mr. Pressman does not like that, we're more than happy to put it back
Just for the
exactly where it
record,
is.
the egress remains the same.
Exactly.
Exactly the same. Site plan has not changed with regards to driveway, position of the structure, any accessory structures, and the number of number of parking spaces remain the same, correct?
Correct.
So the only thing that's changed is where the entry will be.
Correct.
Any questions, board? Jeff?
No, not from that.
Christine? Esther?
No questions.
Brian? Nope. There's been no change to the architecture of the structure, no change in, of the original application. The only discussion this evening is the change in location of the driveway.
Correct.
Is there any public comment? Board?
Excuse me. Do you have the new survey or a copy of the new survey?
Oh, then, look, you can't use the.
I couldn't use that, sure.
It's the same.
Okay. Good evening, Eric Bregman, Farrell Fritz, representing Mr. Pressman, who lives next door, as you know. The problem with this house has been, in our view, that it's too big and too massive. You know that. We've said that. You've heard a lot of testimony about that. The issue now is the parking, not the number of cars, which I know is an issue that's not for here, and the number of bedrooms, and not the issue of the location of the garage in the front yard, which is also not for here. It's for the zoning board. The problem is that the house is too big, there's been no compromise, and it appears to us that every time something happens, it doesn't quite work and doesn't quite fit. Mr. Pressman will speak to why the parking spaces don't quite work, at least as we see them from this plan. And so the reason I was asking for the survey is...
I'm sorry?
Affect us?
I just trying to figure out exactly what if you can just, I'm sorry, what are your concerns for your, either your client or for whomever you're representing?
Well, Mr. President can speak to it more directly, but for example...
I just want to know what your...
Yes, I understand. You want to get some idea of what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
All right. This parking spot is right in line with the garage. It cuts it off. These two parking spots, if they are in fact occupied, don't have sufficient room for cars to pass through them. These parking spots...
Are you still talking about site planning?
Pardon?
That's not, you understand that the positioning of parking spaces in the driveway has either A, been vetted out in another process, another form other than this board. So we're looking at architecture, and I'm sorry, I don't want to, I know you have a reason and purpose for your discussion. What we don't want to do is, we can't really entertain matters that are not within the purview of this board. It builds cases, and if we allow it to happen, that means we're entertaining it as if we had the authority to speak on it.
The issue here is if the parking doesn't work, and if the driveway and the parking has to be changed, that could very well affect the massing and the design and location of elements of the
And
house.
if that's vetted out in another form where the house has to be now redesigned in another manner, then it would have to come back before this board for an approval.
And we're doing that, as you know, with the zoning board and some of those issues. But there isn't any other form that I'm aware of for how to make the parking work with this house other than this board. This is not a subdivision where you have to have a site plan approval. There is no site plan approval. This is it.
No, what ends up happening is we're the last step before a building permit is issued. So people use this board as a forum as last resort to bring up issues that are not within our purview. We have to stop that. It brings lengthy meetings that we really don't have time for, and we can't entertain it any further. So if you have any matters about the architecture you'd like to discuss, we will discuss that.
Our request is that this plan be put on a survey that's very specific to see if it in fact works. And if it doesn't work, then there should be consideration of whatever changes need to be made to the buildings.
What do you mean
in
by
order to make-
works? I don't understand what you mean by works.
I don't know how to explain it any better than I did, whether these parking, the required parking as determined by the applicant, right, whether it fits. And if it doesn't fit, what has to be changed to make it fit, which could very well be the buildings. And last time we were here, the board was
We have an architect and we have a landscape architect, both sitting here, putting their license, their reputation, and their practice in jeopardy by stating that this works. We would have to lean towards the professionals to indicate that unless you are able to prove otherwise, we have to lean to the professionals that it works.
Well, Mr. Pressman would want to speak to that, if I may.
Eric, excuse me, has this been the parking reviewed by the building inspector?
No idea.
I have no idea. I know that the building inspector sent it here, so I assume he reviewed it, yes. And if your answer is that we have to challenge him on that parking issue, perhaps that's what we have to do. But the interchange here is with how the parking fits in with the size of the house and what changes would have to be necessary, if we're right, and that the parking does not work.
Well, the size of the house doesn't have anything to do with the parking. It's the number of bedrooms that relate to the parking. And the number of bedrooms under the new law are now calculated by the building inspector.
No, this is not the number of bedrooms. I'm not speaking to that.
Well, you could have a house that's 10,000 square feet with one room
I'm
and
not-
one bedroom, or one kitchen and one bedroom, and that's one parking space.
Bo,
So I'm trying to get to where the link
and I'm
up
trying to
between.
express that to you as clearly as I can. We are not talking about the number of bedrooms and therefore the number of
No, you're
cars.
talking about the size of the house.
No, we're talking about the size of the house and the location of the house, particularly, look, if we're right, and if this doesn't work, and if this driveway has to be changed, then the house has to be moved in this direction. And it may be possible to do that. It would move it away from Mr. Pressman, right? That would be important, obviously, to him, and it would be important to how it integrates with the rest of the community.
Well, all I can try and do is provide a linear process here. I mean, the parking, if there was one parking space required, would there be a problem with that parking design? One parking space, would one car fit with what we see on that survey?
You mean if there was only one bedroom or two bedrooms?
Yeah.
No, that would be fine.
Okay.
But it isn't. This
But
is a
so-
house
but
that has...
That's my point. So, but it's not the size of the house, it's the number of bedrooms that requires a certain amount of parking spaces.
That's right. Well, we are accepting for this discussion, I'm not arguing that there
But-
should be an extra parking spot.
But it's up to the building inspector, Eric, to determine whether or not the flow exists on the property with regard to the number of parking spaces required. That's what the new law says, that there has to be a flow.
That's not what the new law says.
Yes,
The
it
new law
does.
says he has to decide which is the number
No,
of...
it's, the building inspector does that, then it also says that each space has to have its own access to the exit.
Yes, and
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 you're
it's
saying
very
they
specific.
don't.
I'm saying that they don't fit.
You're saying that one space is blocking another. The
Pardon?
block space doesn't have, therefore, a flow to the exit, which violates the new law.
You're both saying the same thing.
And that's for the building inspector, though, Jeff, to decide.
Right, exactly.
I don't... Mr. President would like to speak to that.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding. I'm going to be very clear, because I think what we're saying is this. Under the new law, which I'm very familiar with, there is a non-discretionary dimensional requirement. Our parking space must be a minimum of 10 feet and a minimum length of 18. It's not discretionary, That's required. That's no different than saying the height of the building now has to be 33 feet.
Right.
So if an applicant came to you and said, I want a 40-foot house, I don't think you'd approve that, right? The same thing here. We don't want to get into, for the purpose of this, the number of spaces. We're accepting that for this argument.
But isn't the number of spaces the whole premise of your argument?
No, it's not. The premise of the argument is, and I'm going to show you graphically, that the spaces are not 10 by 18. That's the problem. And they therefore, they don't comply as a dimensional requirement.
Okay, that is a great decisional domain process of the building inspector.
Well, yeah, but are you telling me that if the height of this building was 35 feet, you would approve it?
No, we were saying we would have to go back to the building department.
Okay,
and have
so
them-
I'm going to show you graphically.
We're just going to say that that you need some kind of determination from the building inspector, a letter or otherwise, to say that this complies or it doesn't.
Here's the problem. The survey that was submitted prior to the parking regulations. And therefore, when you compare, and I'm going to show you, the survey to the site plan, they don't match. They're completely different. Because at the time the survey was submitted, parking wasn't an issue. The whole site plan has changed.
Parking issue has changed, Bob. We know
Right,
that.
and so the survey is wrong. The survey you have is not consistent with the site
Survey
plan.
who has? What survey are you referring to?
This the
Let's get
Geary
that
survey. If I could just pass
What's
on.
the date of the survey?
May 27th. If I could pass this out, I think I can, give me a few minutes, I can
This
explain.
board doesn't do surveys. I mean, that's what we're trying to say.
The survey you have is incorrect.
Who says so?
Because it's not, because when you compare the site plan to the
It's not
survey,
up for
they
this
don't
board.
match.
It's not up for this board to look at surveys. We don't have the expertise to determine surveys. That's for the building inspector.
Except that this board determined at the last meeting, it wanted accurate and precise information. You don't have that.
Wait a minute. What accurate and precise information?
If I could pass this out, and
We don't really want to get into the survey. We want a letter from the building inspector saying that this parking complies or it doesn't.
Are you going to allow me to pass this out or not allow me to pass this
If you
out?
want to pass it out.
Very good.
That's what we need, a letter from the building.
Bo? I mean, let's just get right to my concern.
Yeah.
We are entertaining matters that are not within the jurisdiction of this board.
Yes, absolutely.
If parking is a concern, and if the configuration of the parking is concerned as it pertains to any survey or information that has been given to us, then the building department will instruct this board that is inaccurate. We're not going to be in a position right now, based on your testimony, to determine if it is or is not. You would have to take, because what I'm saying is that you can give the testimony this evening.
I plan to.
But it won't be anything that we could take under consideration.
That's okay.
Because it's not within our purview.
I want to build the record. So-
May I interrupt? We have a very long agenda.
Yeah, I'll take-
Just a minute, we have a long
Yes.
agenda. I would like to ask for a letter of determination from the building inspector with regard to this issue, and I'd like to keep this application open, but I really don't want to hear any more.
That's very fair. And so I would need 60 seconds rather than 5 minutes to just summarize my issues, and I'll sit down. And I
I
appreciate.
think the board, Bob, has said 4 times they do not want to hear this. And it's going to get very abrupt in a moment when the board makes a motion to adjourn this for all purposes and tells you to come back with a letter from the building inspector.
So just.
Yes, that's right. Yes, 5 times now they've said it.
I just want to clarify.
No need to clarify.
Just
We
clarify.
understand what you've said.
No, I'm going
We
to clarify
understand
what
your
Ms.
position.
Pastor said. So you're saying that you would, as the building department, for.
No, this is an ARB board. They want a letter from the building inspector with the building inspector's interpretation of this parking, and that will resolve whether or not you're correct or the applicant is correct.
That's fair.
Thank you. We'd like to keep the application open. We'd like you to request us to adjourn as we wait for a letter of determination from the building inspector.
Esther, just adjourn it.
May I put this in the may I put this in the file?
And I'm going there. I'm going there.
I accept what you said, with respect. I'd like to put this in the file, and I will not talk any further.
This application is, I'm sorry, because I have to object to that as well. if we even get a determination from the building department that it is or is not, it doesn't stop this process
No,
from
it
moving
doesn't. No,
forward.
no, it doesn't.
So I don't know why we're adjourning for a
Because
letter.
you're just resolving one issue, but I don't see the.
It's appeasing a situation that, and we keep doing this over and over again, where we'll stop because something comes up that has absolutely nothing to do with our determination on an application.
But
If it moves or if it adjusts or if it, for any reason there's a miscalculation and it has to come back before this board, then it has to come back before this board. But it hasn't been determined that that's the case.
No, it hasn't.
For matters of this application, do you have any concerns with
No.
the architecture, the structure, or anything that's been presented before this
No,
board?
I think we've exhausted all of that.
Esther, do you have any issues, concerns about any matters that have to do with the architecture, the screening, or any presentation of the application as it pertains to the ARB's purview?
No.
Christine?
No.
Jeff?
I do from the standpoint that the parking could impact the placement of the house, and if there's questions about the landscape plan upon which we have to make a decision, I could not make a decision one way or the other.
Okay, I have no issues going forward. Do we have a three-person vote to move forward with
I'm
the
not
application?
prepared to move forward.
Are you prepared to move forward?
No, not tonight.
Then we don't have it. We don't have the votes for this evening.
Can I just speak?
You can step forward and speak.
Chris, I'm just going to switch this and I'm going to sit down. Will that be okay?
You can sit it any way you like.
I'm just going to submit it for the file.
Lisa?
I'm sitting down.
If you look at the site plan, the landscape plan that I submitted, the 10 by 18 rectangles are shown around each car. The new parking law.
I don't have an issue.
Okay,
You're
I
looking
know,
at me, and I
I'm
don't
talking
have
to
an
you,
issue.
Chris. The new parking law states that you can stack 2 cars behind the garage.
Right.
Only 2 cars. You used to be able, if you picture a 50-foot wide lot and you had the driveway running down the side of it, people stacked 3 cars, 4 cars. The new law actually says that you can stack 2 cars. So even if they want to say that the
I
corner
mean,
of this
you're
overlaps.
again speaking. I know you're defending your
I've been here
application
for
right
3
now.
months.
I get it. I understand you defending, but just like I said to Mr. Pressman, it's not within our purview. And
Right, so why are you holding me?
I'm not holding you up. I'm just making. You have two other board members that have to move forward.
I went over this plan with John Foster at the counter. I showed him, we calculated the number of rooms that required
I mean, going
cars.
forward, should we start getting
we showed this.
a building department to write a letter stating that everything complies? I thought we went under the assumption that every application that came before this board complies.
You know, I don't think we need to go there, Curtis. Basically, that's been the way it is, except there have been issues. There was an issue on Woolley Street a couple of years ago about
We're talking
violation of
4
the character
applications
law.
out of the hundreds that we've
Well,
seen.
you never know. But my point is, so I'm just trying to at least get this board to a point where when you make a decision, you have comfort in knowing it and those issues have been resolved. The easiest way to do this is simply just to get a letter from the building department saying that this complies. I have no idea where somebody else comes up and says that this doesn't.
So then when we get a letter
Presumption
from the
is-
building department, then he's gonna add that to his zoning board thing. Are we then gonna be held up for that?
We can't speak to what the zoning board is going to do or the future of that. All
I'm not
this
saying
board
that
is
you will,
trying.
but will this board be able to make a decision before he makes his application to the zoning board?
When is he going to make his application to the
Well,
zoning board?
apparently he made his application, but then he failed to notice and post, so they didn't get onto the
Well,
July calendar. Now they're on the August
So
calendar.
we don't know that, and we didn't know that it wasn't properly posted, so how can we address that?
But, so what I want to know is, do you need something from somebody written that says that the zoning board of appeals, that application
we
has no
would-
bearing on
no.
this?
This board would like a letter of confirmation from the building inspector that this survey is compliant for the parking.
3 months.
Any further public comment?
I'm so sorry.
You're setting a bad precedent.
I agree. Please.
Hi, Ann Pine. First of all, I brought the authentication from an architect of these models. I won't waste your time reading it to you, but here's a copy of it. He visited the 9 sites, well, 7 sites actually, because 2 were taken from the plans. He compared his measurements with
It has to be stamped in.
Okay. He compared his measurements with my models, and he declared that they were correct and that they were a clear and simple way to understand the scale, and that it showed the scale was not harmonious. The masses were not harmonious of the new construction with the existing neighborhood. We all know that. The model showed it, the tax assessor's record showed it, the photographs of the houses I submitted showed it, the drone photographs of Lisa Zaloga showed it. She showed Halsey Street with this, and she showed our area with lots of green. I don't think she meant to show that, but it did. 7 neighbors have spoken against this, 4 of them repeatedly appearing here. I've given you the stamped letter. More important, you made a site visit, and you remarked on these models. Mr. Brady said you visited the cul-de-sac. This is a unique neighborhood. We must see the new construction in the context of the rest of the houses. Does it fit? Mrs. Pastor, even though it's significantly off Hill Street, it must be taken in the context of the neighboring houses. It is forward on the lot. It has a feeling of mass. I'm cutting out intervening words. Mass is illustratable. Looking at this, a picture is worth 1,000 words, not harmonious. Massing is very, very large in this neighborhood. Mrs. Redding put in that context, massing is out of scale with the neighborhood. Mr. Broadleib, we are on this duty and responsibility, I guess the board, to judge on mass and impact and harmony. The house exceeds everything else in this neighborhood. It would not get my vote. It has excessive mass for the neighborhood. Again, Mr. Brady, even lowering it to 32 feet is not going to affect its mass. Look at it compared to its neighbors. Ann, this is him saying, Ann is saying this is a precedent, and I agree. It's going to happen. Houses will be built up to this. Only Mr. Highsmith seemed inclined at this July 13th meeting to approve of the house, saying in several different ways that he would not feel comfortable asking that the mass of the house be reduced unless someone higher than our responsibility would have to come and say, he would have to hear, unless legal counsel tells me personally. Members of the ARB, your mandate in this village is a conservative one. I've read the code over and over. You are meant to preserve historic neighborhoods and to protect existing neighborhoods. Other organs of the village may have other mandates, primarily elected ones, whose mandates change with their constituencies, but you are meant to serve without political intent, lowering your heads and following your code. Compatibility and harmony in existing neighborhoods is the essence of your code. When your mandate is rewritten by those above you, you may do differently. Your chairman here has questioned his authority repeatedly, because I've been on 4 of these, to decrease mass, while the majority of you have concurred with his judgments. The thriving neighborhood between Corrigan and Moses Lane in 2 years has been nearly destroyed, and compatibility has been reestablished by 100% in mass. Chairman Highsmith, at the July 13th meeting regarding this application, you said you could not deny this application unless your counsel told you personally you could do so. Here are the words of your counsel, Mr. Robinson, at a June 22nd hearing 2 weeks before. Let nobody, 3 weeks, 4th of July, let nobody be confused, including me, about the fact that this is not me, this is Mr. Robinson. The Ferrara decision was not an elegant decision or a correct decision. There were things that were in that were worthy of criticism. And I stress his next statement, which he addressed to you, Mr. Highsmith. You have the right to reduce mass. Nobody ever said you didn't. That is at minute 1 hour and 1:19 of that meeting. Mr. Highsmith, before you destroy this cul-de-sac and change the precedent on vertical massing for our neighborhood, tell me if you consulted that higher authority, and tell me and other residents of the village what that higher authority said. Until you can figure out your role in this village, you must keep this application open for the consideration of mass in harmony with its neighborhood. You cannot destroy our neighborhood at the same time as you express a lack of knowledge of your authority. Thank you very much.
First of all, My higher authority is not in this room. So
I
be
realize
careful
that,
with your words
but
with
we're
her.
in a
Let
relatively...
me finish my comments.
Oh,
I'll
sorry.
let you sit there and belittle myself, the board, and our council. It was
Those are-
eloquently
those
done,
are the
but I
words.
didn't appreciate it. And understand something. My words are specific. There has been question about what we are capable of doing in terms of reducing mass and size of this, within this jurisdiction. And I've asked many times people like yourself that come before this board to turn to a trustee and say, we need more defined language in our code so that there's no question about what the authority is of this board. So there's no question that we either do or do not have the authority to say you can reduce the size of a person's home. I've said that a number of times. I've also said that we've had a court decision determining that we could not. So that is a precedent on its own. Whether you like the decision or whether the decision was professionally done done correctly, it doesn't matter. It exists. And therefore, since it exists and it hasn't been refuted, we have to abide by that decision. Said that many times.
You have
That's-
said it.
So that's what I fall behind. That's what I believe to be factual. And until someone comes before me personally, as one of 5 people on this board, I won't go and just say a person has to reduce the size of their home. I will say that mass is relevant in many different ways. It can be the same square footage and the same volume can be arranged in many different ways. That's different than reducing the size of a
I
house.
agree with you.
That's different. No, what you're saying is that I have the authority to reduce.
No, you
And when
said
I'm
you
saying
didn't have the authority.
redistribute that mass in other areas, we have the authority to do that. You're telling me that I have the authority to reduce size, and that's different than what we.
Well, I believe you do, but your counsel, at least on the record, said you did, and I did go to the trustees before
I said
Thanksgiving.
he had the right to reduce the mass.
I'll have to look again. I just
Look
looked
again,
tonight.
And
But
don't
I
forget
did
your-
go,
And don't forget, your litigation against the board was summarily dismissed by the judge.
and it was sent back to you.
No, it wasn't sent back. to
It
me.
was sent back to you.
How was it sent back?
I don't know, that's just what Mr. Bragman told me.
Well, that's language I've never heard in a legal context before.
Well, that's what I understood.
Well, I think you've been misinformed.
Can we move on, please?
I just want to answer one thing. I did go to the trustees, and I did ask Mayor Epley this question, and he did say, right before Thanksgiving, I do believe mass can be reduced by the ARB, and I do believe you can redistribute it. But the fact is, which is what Mr. Pressman was getting at, that when you redistribute it, it will not fit the FAR, because it's too big for its area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, you don't have the votes for this evening.
I understand.
for
Can I
this
just
board.
address one thing?
You certainly can.
As I stated at the meeting when Ms. Pine brought the models the first time, the model that she constructed of Mr. Gary's house had 3 dormers on the roof that did not exist in the plan. So how an architect certified that that one was correct and all the other ones were correct?
We're going to go back and forth
When-
over this,
but-
There has not,
But-
no. This board had no issue.
Also,
This board
that's
had no
fine.
concern.
That's fine.
Or
But
I
it should be
specifically asked
noted
each,
that it
hear me
was
out.
incorrect.
I specifically asked each board member, did you have an issue with the architecture? Did you have an issue, I'm sorry, the architecture of the proposed project? Did you have an issue with the size or any of the screening or any relevant information that you presented before this board? Each member had no issue with that. There's some question about the specifics of a right-of-way, of parking and whether it is legal.
That's fine.
Asking the building department to draft a letter to do so. I don't want to get into this
That's
back
fine.
and forth. There's no reason to get into the back and forth. We have an open question. Let's resolve the open question. Once we have the resolution of that open question, this board doesn't have an issue about the application as submitted. Okay?
Okay.
Nothing further from the board. Nothing further from council. Nothing further, well, I will drag you into this. Motion to adjourn the application.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Robert Gary at 475 Hill Street.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next application, please.
Next application is Meadowmere Partners. We believe that this May be
There's a
adjourned.
letter in the file from the attorney requesting an adjournment.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn. Is there a date?
September 14th.
To the
September 14th. Right.
I make a motion that we adjourn the applicant Meadowmere.
No, you approve the applicant's request to adjourn.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant Meadowmere Partners LLC request to adjourn to our next meeting,
Is it September?
September 14th.
September 14th.
September 14th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
PEP 2 Holdings.
Is the applicant present?
Robert Conley of Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York, 11976 for PEP 2 Holdings. At the conclusion of the last public hearing, you had asked to provide screening in front of both buildings. We had the landscape plan updated, handing up now. I apologize I got it to you so late. I didn't receive it until late Friday afternoon, which will show that 30 inkberry shrubs will be planted in front of both, I'm sorry, 15 inkberry bushes will be planted in front of both buildings to provide extra screening. Section E of the drawing.
The Ilex.
Yes.
So you're just having that one single row in front of the building, is that correct?
That's right.
And what is the height? What is the height?
When I discussed it with the landscape architect, she informed me that those particular bushes can grow up to 6 to 9 feet, 4 to 5 feet wide.
What are you proposing at its, when you plant it?
6 feet?
So you're gonna put bushes in, little bushes in the front. And over the next 6 years, they grow to?
Well, they can, that's
They're
what the
hollies,
landscape
yeah, they
architect
grow
did.
quickly.
Adding some Leyland cypress at the back.
Brian? Is that really a major impact? I mean, I know we're kind of screening the facade to take a little bit of the commercial feel from it.
Right.
But is that really an impact?
No.
4-foot shrub? Esther?
I think it's headed in the right direction. I mean, do you want to hear from the neighbors?
Christine?
I agree with Esther.
Is there any public comment on the application? Jeff, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you as well.
No, that's okay. I mean, this is a difficult problem because this is a commercial area, commercial space. It's no secret to anybody who's there or living there. He is conducting a business, has to have some reasonable visibility. At the same time, I appreciate the interest from the applicant to provide some screening. I can't tell as how high these are going to go. The bushes in the front aren't going to do that much screening, but I also understand, I believe from either the village traffic department or whomever, that he might be restricted in terms of the height of the trees in front.
In the front, yes.
So I'm a bit perplexed.
You're the landscape architect? You're the owner?
Yeah, he's the owner.
I'm not sure that's really gonna be, I'm being honest with you, you're basically doubling, greater than double the size of the current existing commercial building. And you're putting very extremely modest shrubbery in front.
Very small.
Very small. That aside, it's a very, you're in a very commercial, I'm sorry, very residential community that have a lot of commercial activity going on there. I would want to see more than just a 4-foot shrub. That's me. I'm 1 of 5.
Creeping Blancs at St. John's Wort.
This is the building that was just approved across the street from Mr. Margano's property.
This is across from.
There's more on the street.
There's more on the street.
Yeah,
The whole
but
entire
this-
lot is screened.
Yeah,
Right.
but these- okay. Let me get up. We had two people come up, two homeowners come up and complain that they were gonna see my building.
Sorry?
We had two people come up originally and complain they were gonna see my buildings, right? All right, and then this what brought on this whole thing where I needed to screen my buildings. All right? Nobody else has come up except for these two guys.
They're the ones that have to wake up every morning and look at it.
Okay. This is the guy's house on the corner. The guy standing in front of that hedge is 6'2", so he has a 7-foot hedge. If he grows that hedge another foot, he's not gonna see anything. You know, that's all it takes, a little fertilizer, let the hedges grow, or I'll even plant, if he wants, I'll plant a few more trees on his property so he doesn't have to see my building. That's this gentleman who has his house for sale and is flipping it. He bought it for $950. I know it doesn't make sense to you, but it
doesn't
makes
make-
sense to me why this guy showed up.
It's not about making sense, sir. It's
Okay.
about relevance.
Okay, so this is Mr. Hickey property, all right? The other gentleman who showed up, Mr. Gosman, this is from his front door. I went to go knock and say hello to him. That's a picture. These pictures I took from my phone. They're not touched up. This is from his front door. Can you see my house? Can you see my building from there? My house? No, right? So I don't see what his problem is. Now, standing in his driveway, you look right into this driveway. So the screening you're talking about does not block the view to this building, with the dumpster in front and the one little tree. And a big blue, higher than my building, bigger than my building. So I don't understand where this whole thing, for me to plant all this extra shrubbery to basically help Verizon look at me, because this is not gonna help. Me planting,
The answer your question, that building's not before this board today.
What's that?
That building's not before this board today.
I know that.
It's not an active
But-
application. Hear me out, I listen to you.
But you approved this, and I'm sure you guys were on the board at that time.
I don't know
Actually, I
when that was
wasn't.
approved.
It just went up.
Sir, just hear me out.
Okay.
That application's not before this board this afternoon.
Okay, well, this
Your
is just,
application
but
is
what I'm
before
trying to say to you is.
Your application is greater than doubling the size of commercial building on one lot. We just asked for some break in some of the commercial aspect.
But what I'm trying to tell you.
So if it's just as much as coming in with larger bushes than 4 feet, I don't understand what the issue and concern is.
Well, I already have a planting in front of the whole place. The planning board engineers said I couldn't plant.
That's on the roadside.
In these sections, they call the death triangles, and that's their words, not mine. I'm not allowed to plant in the death triangles. Okay, I can't put anything high. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is from Mr. Hickey's driveway and Mr. Gosman's driveway, they could see in this driveway and see that, and they could also see right in my driveway. So no matter what I plant in front of my building across from Verizon, it's not going to help them not see my building.
We're not trying to hide your building. I guess you're feeling understand. Please hear me.
I know, I understand. Okay.
This board has not asked you to put 30-foot trees up and hide your building.
Right.
It said if you could plant some type of shrubbery, which is a little more substantial than 4 feet, to break some of the commercial aspect of it. You're not going to be able to cover your entire building.
No.
No one's challenging that. But if you can break some of the commercial feel of it, so it's not so impactful.
I asked my landscape architect to put some plants in front of the buildings. They can't be tall plants because I have an awning. They're not going to, I have to irrigate them. Now, I have this same problem at my other store. I have plants in front under an awning, and they don't last. They don't hold up, and that's why we didn't put them originally. Now, if I go putting bigger plants in front, they're really not gonna last, because there's concrete and my building and parking. You only have so much root mass that can go in there. That's why
Esther,
I
you have any-
proposed,
are you-
that's why I proposed those
Are
size
these
plants.
all evergreen?
Huh?
Are these plants all evergreens?
I don't know.
Yes, I would say.
Okay,
Any other questions, Esther?
no.
Brian, any questions?
No.
Do you have any issues with what's being proposed?
I wish it was more, but to be honest with you, I'm okay with it.
I think given the circumstances and the constraints of the property and the fact that the neighbors are not here, I think we've taken it as far as we can.
Christine?
I agree.
Jeff?
Yeah, I would only ask again, not being able to see the height, but in sections where you have this 3 and the 1, could that not take some higher bushes, arborvitae, that sort of thing, that are evergreen, that may be trimmed to maximum height of 6 feet? And I think it might break up the visual view without blocking the property, and unless I'm wrong, and I'm no traffic engineer, would still provide visibility for egress and
I don't
entry.
know, Bill, I don't know what to really tell you on that.
I'm sorry?
I don't know what
It
to
has to
tell
go
you on
back to
that.
site plan.
I mean, I've been working on this for
It would have to go
3.5
outside when
years.
you did that.
I had you come to the property.
I've looked at the
and I-
property.
I
and
asked you to
I'm-
look over the property and see
Again,
what I'm
like I
talking
said,
about.
yeah, I'm
And-
perplexed.
I mean, it's, the plan is a good plan.
Sir, it sounds like you have 3 votes at minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so,
right.
any public comment? Anything further from the board?
No.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of PEP 2 Holdings LLC on David
File.
White's Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay. Next application, please.
Next application, Ricky L. Associates, 230 Bishop's Lane.
Good evening. This is Tony Marolo. I represent Ricky L. Associates. And the last meeting we were in, the board wasn't comfortable with the design, original design. We came up with another design. You have it all in your packets. Colonial style, 31.6 feet high, the max.
Did you give us small sets?
Of the architecture, no. You have the large sets. You also have the landscape design package in there as well. It's a 4-bedroom house, 4,576 square feet, unfinished basement, and as I said, 31.6 max is the height. We eliminated the garage on the property, and we're doing a carport with a cabana and a pool. So the lot coverage is 20% of the lot. The lot is 24,000 and 172 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just sort of jump right in here. I'm having some issues with the center section of the house, just in the form of it as it relates to the 2 sides and the little dormers on the roof, which just seem to be very much out of scale. Also, the drawings that you provided are not dimensioned, so it's very difficult to see that what's on your drawing is what exists here. But specifically, I'm having an issue with the center section here and with these little dormers. They just feel very much out of scale with the 2 sides.
Right.
Well, you'll have scale, the first couple of pages of the architectural plan does give you dimensions on.
Yes, I know that, but this is not a three-dimensional drawing.
Brian, comments?
I agree with Esther. This whole center section is just way out of proportion with the rest of the house. And the indented window with, it looks like you're gonna have flashing underneath there. And the swooping roof to come out over the porch, it's just not a successful design at all. There's little dormers on the third floor. I don't understand what they're all about, why they're even there. It's a simple form of a house with this mass in the middle of it that's just overpowering the whole thing.
Jeff?
Generally reflect those comments. This house, to me, would be better, knowing the lot as I do, this house is going to be relatively, even though it meets the setback, given that massive facade, it seems to be disproportionate for the lot. Legal though it may be, I could see that on a larger lot, set further back with a lot of greenery around it, that would make sense, but knowing the lot and the corner and that area, the mass of the house just doesn't work.
I heard
the comments.
You heard the comments. Any public comments on the application?
We'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn the application of Ricky L. Associates at 230 Bishop's Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. They're extras.
Next application, please.
Next application, Robert Barron. That's what we're up to. Driveway gates.
Is the applicant present? Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn Robert Barron on Weekapug Road for the driveway gates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, please.
Next application is Emanon East Corporation.
Michael White, Southampton, New York. Last meeting, you wanted to see a streetscape of that side of the road, and you also wanted to see a 3D rendering of the property. And also, there were a couple changes that I made to the plan. I believe mostly on the the south elevation where we made the changes. And here's the streetscape. These are all the two houses on each side, and that's the house in 3D put on here. The question you had with the house was the 25-foot, which is part of zoning for 25 feet. I'm allowed to have that by right. You know, one thing I found out from one of the neighbors, Barbara Held, she said that years ago she bought part of the property of the back, and that's why this lot isn't so deep. So I don't have the luxury of like my neighbors. I'm missing 50 feet off the back of the property. So that's why I'm trying to pull the house up to 25 feet. Or I'm going to have a very hard problem having a, you know, a proper backyard if I set it back. So, you know, and I did a landscape plan. There's a lot of screening that's on the property now. There's a 25-foot arborvitae hedge on the north side of the property. I'm going to fill in any privet there to about 8 foot. And, you know, I've gone over this with both neighbors on the left and the right, and they have no problems with this. So I'm not understanding, you know, why there's such a problem and on the north and south side of me. And it's 30 foot tall. Also, this house used to be 32 foot tall, and I was told by this board 2 meetings ago, don't worry about the height, don't worry about the parking, these rules will not go into effect for months.
No.
I don't
You
remember
told me
saying
that.
that.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I looked at the tape today. You told me 2 meetings ago, you said you're overreacting. The height and the parking will not go into effect.
First and foremost, we don't make law.
But you told me that.
We don't make the code.
I understand
We don't
that.
make law. We don't make any of that. So regardless of anything, first of all, I don't recall saying that, and I don't think I would say anything
I saw
like
it
that.
today.
Well, I'll take your word for it. But secondly, we are just an aesthetic.
I
board.
understand that,
So-
but I'm trying to figure out what the rules are, and every time I come here, the rules are changing.
Well, we didn't change the rules.
No, but I'm, you know, I'm going through the hoops for everything you're asking me.
You were starting off good. Please, let's not turn someplace else. Brian, comments?
I appreciate the rendering because you get to see in depth what they're doing. And what's sticking out at me is the depth of your eaves in the front with those big brackets. Because I was under the impression from looking at your drawings before that they were more like corbels, you know, and on a very subtle facade, which I think would be much more successful. These big brackets here with that deep overhang is really jarring to me. I like the way you cleaned up the south elevation, though.
I want to thank you because these really are very helpful. I think the most successful part of the house is the front entrance of the house, which is really very graceful. However, the second floor, the third floor, the eaves are really top-heavy and they're disproportionate to the scale of the house. And again, there's still a lot going on all the other elevations. I'm still having a problem with the north elevation and the south elevation. They're very, very busy. And frankly, the front of the house is just not in keeping with all the other houses on the street, which are simple, clean, much more modest in feeling. The fact that part of the property was purchased by another neighbor is unfortunately a constraint that you're going to have to deal with. When you go down Woolley Street and you look at all the houses as they line up, there's a real sense of neighborhood there. And I, for one, feel that this house would not be in keeping with its neighbors. I feel this is far too massive.
Jeff?
I do have similar concerns with the architecture, particularly the north elevation, the south elevation, and I guess the front, so that doesn't leave too much else. But my major concern is with the placement. And the rules, since you asked about the rules, are that this board does have the authority to approve or disapprove based upon the harmonious relationship to the neighborhood, including the placement of the house. And that's in section 11633B. So the rules, those are the rules. So this board can approve or disapprove based on placement. Now, a simple I appreciate you doing a streetscape. From an overhead, and this is gonna be hard for you to read, but looking at doing an overhead of Google Maps, you can draw a straight line where 5 houses to the left, 5 houses to the right, including 75, which is owned by somebody who says she didn't quite approve with what you had said, but I will not question a conversation I wasn't privy to. She'd expressed something other to me than that. However, that being said, it's a clear line, Michael, from all the houses to the left and the right. So my request, or at least my desire, in order to get my vote, approving vote, would be to move the house back so it would have less appearance of mass. And to the extent that that might mean that you shorten the pool or shorten the pool house or whatever, this property is constrained by its size. So,
Do you know what the percentage on Woolley Street of houses that are 25 foot away from the road?
Michael, I
It's
can,
over
I can see
75%.
I can see with my own
Well,
eyes
you
the
should do
houses.
an analysis, because I've measured every single one of them, and it's almost 75%. So to say that a neighborhood is, I mean, all the houses across the street are 25, 24, 20.
Across the street. We're talking on your side.
Also at the beginning of Woolley Street,
There
they're
are
23 feet.
There are 2 or 3 houses at the beginning of Woolley Street,
Right.
which date back a long time, and one borders on Hampton Road, which has a full corner, not relevant to a house sandwiched in between small lots.
It's not
Okay,
relevant.
and the second house is equally not relevant. It's an antique house. So by pointing out those 2 houses does not help your case in terms of showing to me what's harmonious. So, again,
As far as history goes, Zach will tell you that most of the early houses in this village were 20 to 25 feet from the road.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about
It doesn't matter. You're trying to preserve Southampton. But if you know the history of this village and the history of the architecture here, most houses were close to the road. So you're talking about houses that were built, and Woolley Street's not a historic street. Woolley Street is a mishmash of every type of bungalow you can imagine that's been built there. That was a working class
I think
neighborhood.
your neighbors would take offense to that. And a mishmash doesn't have a straight line that you can draw across a dozen houses,
Well,
Mike.
you just told me 2 houses that are 5 houses away on my side of the
No,
block.
5 houses?
Now, a corner
Try-
house
try
should be
8 houses
further.
away, please.
Shouldn't a
Please.
corner house be further away from the street?
Please, Michael. Let's move on.
Christine?
The lower part of this house, I have no problem with. The rest of the house, the massing of the house is too much for this street. It's too much for the lot. It's out of scale completely. And I think if you bring it forward, it's gonna be even more out of scale. So you're not gonna have my vote with this house that close to the street. And also, I have a problem with the north elevation and the south elevation. They look like 2 completely different houses to this.
Any public comments on the application? Please step forward.
We want to hear something new.
Yeah. Anything new? Any new testimony that hasn't been discussed in prior meetings? About the size,
In
about the
previous meetings.
previous meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Maggie Finnerty, Woolley Street. Concerning the height, he has testified that he's at 30 inches, but the plans...
30 feet.
30 feet. I mean, the plans show, and I verified with the building department, that it's 30.7 inches. And they said that is above what's allowed now for that size lot, that it needs to be lowered. So that needs to be taken into consideration in any redrawings. At the last meeting, he testified that he had talked to the neighbors on both sides about taking down all the trees, essentially, on the whole property. I went to both of the neighbors and asked if they were aware of that. They said they had a conversation, and they absolutely did not say that they were in favor of taking those down, and they were not in favor of this house or moving it forward. And they both made that very, very clear.
That's the reason why we say when you speak, on even you
Yeah.
making testimony now, that if the neighbor's not here or they don't present before us a letter or something in writing, then we don't take it into consideration. It would be hearsay. That would be you
Yeah,
testifying.
but so
on
is
it.
his hearsay.
Exactly.
Okay. We went down to the building department today about the windows, and they said that there had been no change on the windows. Is there a change on the windows, or isn't there? Because the windows, you've commented on several times, we agree with you.
There
Did they
were
get changed?
some changes to the,
There was nothing in the file as of 2 o'clock this afternoon. The new submission was just what was handed to us this evening. So
Okay,
you're
that
There was no
correct the
change.
windows?
no changes at that time.
So we still have the same window problem with all the different sizes and styles.
There was.
It was
The-
cleaned up a
It
little
was
bit.
cleaned up a little bit on
On
what
one
was submitted,
side.
but you have not seen that yet.
Okay. I just wanted to comment on Mr. Robbins' comment about the building department saying one thing, a person coming in here saying something else. We've had that happen in several cases, including this one, and it really would be helpful procedurally and to make it clean and straight and legal to have that statement from them on all these issues that keep coming up all the time that you don't have any way of knowing whether they're right or wrong. I think that would be a great
Well, I
improvement to the
would actually,
process.
to the contrary of that, I would say that if an applicant or even the neighbor or someone who wants to give testimony about something the building department has ever said, stated, should get it in writing and present it before this board. We wouldn't take in consideration anything that a person said the building department said. So if you.
No, I agree. That's.
You have an email?
The problem is that these people, the protesters here or the complainants this evening, were not prepared. They had issues with parking, but they didn't have anything from the building department, and that delayed the applicant. That's not fair. There's a procedure here that's very well followed, but if you don't follow it, it doesn't do any good.
Yeah.
You can't come into the board at 7 o'clock and say there's a problem with the parking, and the board say, what does the building inspector say? And that person say, we don't know. And that's what happened. So the only thing the board can do, unfortunately, is adjourn it for a meeting to let the building inspector have the opportunity to state his position in writing. And that way, there's no dispute.
Is there anything more specific on this?
Yeah, we talked last week, you were going to have them do a landscape plan. Did that happen?
Yes.
Yes.
It did, okay, because they said it wasn't, there was nothing new in the file.
You'll be able to review it because we're going to hold this application open.
Okay. I have a concern about, I know he originally wanted to knock down the trees in the village, and they said that he could not. Now the driveway is going to come up the middle, and I have a concern that though it's not knocking the tree down, it's probably going to run right over the roots, and it'll be killed anyway. You can't run a driveway so closely over a tree, so I hope that'll be considered in the landscaping plan. And he addressed the two neighbors to the north, saying that they had smaller lots. The reason for that is that John Street comes in there. So they're the last two houses on the block. John Street comes in, and especially the corner house is quite small in the backyard, but that's because another street has come in. And that has nothing to do with Barbara Held having bought that property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Yeah, hi, Eric Winkler, also from John Street. I have, my question is somewhat more procedural, because it's hard to really make comments when we sort of like you get this documentation just, at the meeting and can't look at it. Isn't there a deadline where documentation has to be submitted and so we can properly review it and comment on it?
We normally typically ask an applicant to have documentations within a week before or prior to the next meeting.
I think that would be very helpful to have a due
However,
process.
it happens at times where the applicant brings information, whether it be deadline, whether it be resources, or what, we don't know why, but they bring it the night of. That only means that this board hasn't had really the opportunity to review, nor anyone else had the opportunity to review. Therefore, it does handicap all of us to make a recommendation, ruling, or decision.
Right. And I just want to comment, I appreciate your your work in due diligence and really want to reinforce that you maintain the line, because all houses on that street, on Woolley Street, are within 2-3 feet of each other in terms of the setback. I think it's very important to maintain that and not establish a precedent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, Mike? Still some concerns about, first and foremost, it doesn't seem like the board would be in favor of the house being pushed forward. It doesn't seem you would have the votes to do so. Also, there were some challenges with regards to the front facade, the brackets underneath each one of the eaves. The windows still need to be, even though we appreciate some of it being cleaned, it still seems to be a little busy and mishmash of different style sizes. And Brian, did you not make a little sketch at the last meeting?
I did for each facade, but they weren't done.
Okay.
Absolutely, they were done. Absolutely. I did every single one, but the side of the roof on the south side, I brought the roof across on the stair tower.
Michael, it needs to be so much simpler. It's so busy.
But
It's
this
so
is my house.
complicated.
This is what I want to build.
Pretentious house for that street. It's sort of.
Listen, I've gone through these meetings a million times, all right? And I've just seen on Herrick Street, something you designed. The whole neighborhood hates it, but it's beautiful. And, you know, it's can't,
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like, no, it really is a nice house, but it's just, it's becoming everybody in this village is a judge.
We're going back and going
But this is
backwards.
becoming a Hill Street now, what you're doing. And
I don't know what that means. This is not Hill Street. I don't know what that
Well,
means, but
it's-
let's keep it into your application. There's some issues that this board has.
I can't move it back, so I respectfully submit that you vote on it, and if, I'll do what I gotta do, because it's, you know, I can't move the house back. You see the site plan, I'm not moving, you know, this board's always worried about putting pools too close to property lines. Now you want me
This
to.
board has never commented on placement of pools. It is not within our jurisdiction to talk about placement of pools. There were some suggestions so that you didn't push the house so far forward. This board will not and has not talked about placement of pools.
Well, there's been
So
people.
then it sounds like maybe you're not listening to the process.
I've heard applications come here, and that's been
So
a big
what is it that
complaint.
you want this board to do?
I'm fine with voting.
Anything further from the public?
I'm fine with voting.
Anything further from the board? The motion would be motion to deny the application for incompletion.
I think I better write it.
Okay.
Incompletion?
Motion to close the application for written decision by council. We'll discuss it further in detail in terms of our ruling, but overall, the application would be denied.
Because of incompleteness?
Motion to close the application for written decision. Please.
I make a motion to close the application for written decision by council.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is 34 Old Town Crossing.
Hello, nice to see everybody again. Josh Rosenzweig from Austin Patterson Disson Architects, along with Adriana Concepcion. We have some small sets for you tonight, so you don't have to open up the big plans.
Thank you.
Plans you have and you're presenting today, are there any changes from what we've received?
There are
in
no
our file?
changes.
No changes in elevations, design, details, material being used?
No. They're exact replicas of the latest submittals to the building department.
Thank you.
Tonight, we are here on behalf of 34 Old Town Crossing to submit to you a gambrel-style, 2.5-story, single-family residence with 1.5-car garage and detached pool house. If you look at the first page of your submittal that I've given to you, you can see the first north rendering of the gambrel-style home. As you can see, it's clad with exterior cedar shingles with shutters and shed roofs. One of our goals here in the project was to create a conservative facade and a quieted front, rear, and side elevation that sort of found its home in the balance of the neighborhood. We feel that the context of the neighborhood welcomes something of this design. There's a refinement in the details that you see between flares and casings and various different shutter designs that we have here. The actual materials that you'll see on the front facade, there's a Danish blend skirt board that goes around the perimeter of the building, as well that matches the chimneys. We brought in full-scale mock-ups for you to see. The shutters on the north facade are Pacific Seal Teal, which we have a color sample as well. Pressure-treated red cedar shingles for the roof, and red cedar shingles left natural for the side elevations. You'll see in the site plan in a bit when we talk about that, we tried to keep the building back further than the allowable front yard setback. Being 30 feet, we chose to locate the building 40 feet from the front yard. It's important to our client that the house be reserved and its presence on the streetscape, and that was one of the things that we had done. There. You can see that the 30-yard setback is here, and we are 40 feet to the house. But we'll get into this later when I talk about some trees and evergreen plantings and screening. The front porch of the house is a sitting area. We chose to create a nice shed roof there to also minimize its impact to the street instead of doing any gables or front entry pediments. If you all go to the corresponding pages in the packet we gave you, you can start to go around the building a bit. I can see everybody's sort of strolling through. You can see that the driveway comes on the east side of the house.
Brian?
Site is located on a 14...
On this street, I want to see streetscape.
Really? Yeah.
On this street.
Very much.
Because of what's been going on.
Streetscape.
The house is beautiful.
Yeah.
We have context drawings that we can show the board.
Do you have a streetscape? It's a beautiful house.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful house. And it's refreshing to have somebody voluntarily set a house back further than what's required by zoning.
It's very important to us, especially with the refined details, to not overstate anything and keep things within the context of the neighborhood.
Why don't you hand the streetscape in, please?
Yep.
That's a good area.
Stop.
We'll take a look. Is it the same or another difference?
You ready? See it?
So this is what's there now?
Part of one packet.
So 2 pages are part of one packet, correct?
Yes.
The existing house, or the house that's coming down,
Mm-hmm.
how far is that set back off Old Town Crossing?
It's about the same placement as where it's going. We can get that for the record of the building department if needs be, but it is slated to be demoed.
What, and with regards to the streetscape, concerns you, Brian?
I just wanted to see the scale of it with the houses next to it, not the placement on the street.
And one of our, one of our sort of major goals here were taken into consideration with the dormers. As you can see, both on the half-story and the second floor, instead of going with a gable dormer or something that was more pronounced, we chose shed dormers, something that would fall
Yeah.
away. That was something that's very pronounced on this building and has become uniform in terms of its total aesthetic. Even on the front, as I mentioned before, we felt sheds are much quieter to the surrounding areas and neighbors. So we wanted to create a house that had minimal impact on the neighbor view.
May I have something in terms of the streetscape? This streetscape that you presented, these are houses that either don't exist or will not exist. correct? But your company is developing 3 houses in a row.
No, I'm an architect.
You're an architect, but the builder, correct?
The build,
So
this is our client's personal home, that I can attest to.
Okay, no, it's not about personal house. Excuse me.
I don't know what.
Okay, here's where I'm going with this.
You understand we're reviewing this application as submitted.
I understand
And the
fully.
content of the community as it stands today.
Right. And
These are all images from Google Earth.
And one of the houses is not here and has been replaced, I believe, right?
Google Earth has been a tool that I've used, and I have pictures
No,
of
no, no, I'm not
streetscapes.
asking the veracity of Google
I'm
Plus.
not
I'm just
familiar with-
saying this particular house was demolished and has now being replaced by another house. So all I'm saying is that I'd like to see,
I'm
that would
not
make me
working
more.
on that house.
I understand what you're saying. I'm asking for a streetscape that represents the current situation. Because my concern is that, one, with the existing house, the Victorian that's to the west, is within
This is
10
one of those
feet
new
of
big
your
houses.
sideline approximately. And then with your 10 feet, you're creating only a 20-foot separation, or thereabouts. I'm not a surveyor. So I'm saying my concern
this is
is that there
coming
will be a small separation between the
But
two
they're huge
houses.
houses.
That given
So
the
this-
design of your house, as
in
attractive
there
as it
nicely.
is, may negatively affect the
It's toward this
streetscape
end
and the
of
harmony
street
of the
where the
street.
bigger
So all I'm
houses
asking
are.
is for a representative streetscape, and as representative and as current as possible.
Are you saying if it's under construction, pictures where it stands now? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, that would be a plus, and then we could look at it with other builders.
So, wait, you're, so to understand it, so we have good con. You want him to give a
the house you're talking
streetscape
about is
showing
not
the
coming
house?
down.
Hear me out, just hear me.
Sorry.
You're looking for him to prepare a streetscape showing the house that's under construction on another lot as it's constructed,
No,
or with the vacant lot?
I'm just asking him to present a streetscape. We can then, I'm not asking him to opine on somebody else's construct, but we, as a board, as an individual, I could look at the streetscape as it currently exists, look at plans for the other houses, and make an assessment, because this board relies on my sound judgment. That's all I'm asking.
No, I appreciate it. I'm a little confused, though.
There's nothing to be confused about. All I'm
I'm
asking is.
confused too.
Okay, very simply, this is Google, yes, but Google is not current. All I'm asking is
That's Bing.
for a
Yes,
current,
sorry.
a current streetscape as you stand from the street.
Christine, you have comments?
No.
Esther, do you have any more comments?
This does it for me. I can see where it is in relation
I'm
to the
fi-
street, yeah.
Look, for the record, I'm fine with it. I think your home is wonderfully tasted. It's wonderfully
This is where the
designed.
home-
It fits in. I don't have any issues, no concerns about the architecture. I appreciate the presentation as you've presented it for us. I think it was, excuse me, complete. It was thorough. I have no issues, no concerns. Esther?
I will agree that the house is beautifully rendered. You've given us all the information we've asked for in terms of the architecture. It's definitely harmonious with the village and the street. And I think that given the fact that there are 3 houses under construction on that street, fairly large homes, I think it's going to be very compatible. I really don't think I need another streetscape. Christine and I actually drove down the street. We spent
Next
quite a
door to
bit
your
of,
other house,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Any public
That's what I
comment on the
wanted. Comfortable with
application? Any public comment? Nothing further from the board? Motion to approve.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion that we approve the application 34 Old Town Crossing LLC.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Have a good evening. Next application, please.
Next application is James Miller for driveway gate.
Hello.
Hey.
I think you met my wife last week,
Yes.
so hopefully people had a chance to go drive by and here to answer any questions.
Have the gates changed at all?
Sorry, you say the gates have not changed?
No. I don't think we were asked to change anything. I think you guys just wanted to look at it.
Is there a site plan? Maybe a survey?
Okay, so it was the setback issue concerns. Do we have, and also,
It's 34.
yeah. I think the only concerns we had were the setbacks. Board member had the opportunity to do a site visit.
Yes.
Brian, do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
No, I think the transparency is good for it.
Esther?
I did not have any issues on it. I think we had driven down that street.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
went and looked.
Esther, no? Christine, nothing?
No, Esther and I went and looked.
Jeff?
Not having seen it, I'm going to defer to the other board members.
Yeah.
Any public comment on the application? We've all gone to see site visits, we have no concern. I think the question had to do with the actual positioning of the driveway gates on lot. I have no concerns going forward.
Thank you.
Nothing further from the board, motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the driveway gates for James Miller on Halsey Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Good luck. Next application, please.
225 West Prospect Street. Hi.
How you guys doing?
Good. You don't have small sets, do you?
I don't. I just have the big ones that were submitted.
You guys doing? Zach Epley, 78 West Prospect Street.
Zach, you're killing us.
Oh.
You're killing us.
Sorry.
It's okay. Part, this board normally typically asks that our applicants bring smaller sets.
Yeah,
It's not a part of the process of policy as of yet, but at what point do we finalize that? Should be part of the checklist for the building department. That's your fault. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm proposing to build a single-family, two-story house with an attached garage at 225 West Prospect Street for me and my wife. It's a property we've owned since the 80s, and it's something we currently right now is it's like a two-story barn that was finished off with an attached garage. So we plan on clearing that and putting this house on. Some of the major aspects of this house, I know, it's always with property is parking. We made sure we had plenty of parking on the property. And also the height of the house. The house is 27.5 feet high that we're proposing on a 0.6 of an acre. So that's well underneath the requirement. I know that was one of the big arguments, the heated things in the village. It's a farm-style house. We're going to be doing white shingles with the asphalt roof. It matches the neighborhood. It matches the village. And that was important to us. It's going to have a porch with, that. So you guys take a look at the plans. Any
How big is the lot?
questions? What?
How big is the lot?
The lot is a little over 0.6 of an acre. It's 125 feet across. And we kind of went with a more of a narrow house. That's what's on the lot now. You guys take a look at the plan. Here is what's on the lot currently. And then the proposed is going to kind of fit in the same footprint.
It's sort of tucked in there, though.
Kind of like an L. And it, fits all the setbacks. We don't really have, we have the train tracks on behind us, and we have the water tower to the left of us. So it's, there's only 3 houses on that side of the street, on West Prospect Street. And we're not gonna be keeping
Zach,
them.
what are the intersecting streets?
Henry is kind
Okay.
of diagonal.
Right, okay, gotcha.
So it's the last one, if you're going west on West Prospect Street, on the right before the water tower.
Gotcha, okay.
Esther, comments?
Same one.
Okay, the roof deck is giving me a little bit of an issue here. You've got a couple,
Yeah, that's between the garage and the house. We thought it'd be too bulky if you kind of go straight across to connect the garage, so we kind of left it separate space there. It's something that we have currently on the house that we're gonna be taking down is a front roof deck that walks out. I know we kind of like it. My my sister dates the neighbor, and now I can stand outside and kind of spy on the two of them.
I'm sorry?
My sister dates the neighbor across the street, so I can sit there and spy on him.
You know you're a public record.
I'm
That goes
impressed.
under the
I want him to know that.
Too much detail.
Yeah.
Is that in our purview?
No, that's definitely not. It's a little creepy, though.
How wide is this house?
The width of the lot is 125 feet.
Yeah, it's a big piece of lot.
It's a big lot. Anything else, Esther?
yeah.
Brian?
I don't have any issues with it.
Christine?
It cheers my heart to see a young couple in the village building this house on Prospect Street. I have to say that.
Okay.
Going for the sentimental vote, huh?
Jeff, comments?
Yeah, well, I actually
is what's coming
respect
down.
Zach's effort. I mean, he comes here with the burden of having
Let's see if there's
some familiar content, but, so I think this houses and living close to the area, I think would be a general improvement. As far as the architectural, I mean, it looks like a lot of house, but it's also a very big lot, so I have to rely on Brian to assess
I mean,
it.
you look at the site plan, you can
Yeah,
see.
It's a beautiful home.
Yeah.
It's a
Beautifully
definite
ranch
improvement
home.
of what
The
exists.
second story deck doesn't concern me because you're looking at a water tower
Yeah.
and you're looking at a railroad track.
Yeah.
So if you want to look at the train, knock yourself out. Got no issues with
Every morning I
privacy
wanna sit there and
concerns
watch
and
the
issues.
train.
No neighbors to
No,
complain?
well, you get the beep beep in the night, right? Any public comment? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of 225 West Prospect Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next application, please.
Next application is Drew Schuttinger, 166 Corrigan Street.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Zahn. I'm the architect representing the owner. If you recall, this is 166 Corrigan, and we had just completed 154 Corrigan right next door. House, very similar in design. We have the shingle style. Let's get to the elevation. Cedar siding, cedar roof. The chimney will be a stone blend. The only difference between this and the house next door was we incorporated the gambrel roof style instead of the sweeping gables that were next door. The size of the lot is 0.406 acres, and the allowable square footage for the house was 3632, and we're proposing 3602. The height is 27 foot 7 inches.
I'm sorry, what did you say the height was?
It's 27 feet 7 inches. And also, in the rear of the yard, we had the pool house. That is 300 square footage. It's 15 by 26.
These are natural shingles
Natural, yes.
and roof too.
And the roof too.
You basically maximize every square foot of this lot. I
Except
mean,
for 30 feet.
Every square
Mhm.
foot of this lot is. So now we're going to content of street, because this will be the fourth home in a cluster of homes that have been knocked down and built. And I have to say, it's sad.
You want to
Brian,
speak, Jay?
comments?
You know, it's a basic Gambrel-style house, but, you know, the neighborhood is what it is. You know, it's a tough one. These houses are too big for their lots, I think.
Yeah.
I agree.
Christine?
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff?
The mass of the house, and it's a massive house on a limited lot, and I think the design of the house, again, from just in my personal aesthetics, make it even more massive. You've got a long, flat front roof. You've maximized, again, everything that you could do, and unfortunately, in maximizing the square footage and what's allowable by the zoning laws, you built a house that was probably less attractive and less desirable, at least if I were moving into that neighborhood, and less consistent with what that neighborhood was than you could have. I think you have so much potential on that property to do sometimes less is more. And this is a situation where it's a cute street, it's going to be in demand, and if you build a house that's consistent with that, I can't tell you what to build, but to get my vote, this house doesn't do it.
So if we altered this to what we just did previously?
No,
You know, the part of the
And
issue
that's-
with that is what you did previously. I see it now.
Yep. Too big.
I see it every day. Look out the
With-
window and
with
look
the
at
other
it.
five.
And is there any public comment? Please step forward.
We have the misfortune of
Your name
being,
for the record, please.
Michael Wyden. We live on Harvest Lane. We have the misfortune of being the immediate neighbors in the back door. These are massive structures. They invade our privacy, and they're cookie cutters. So these are two McMansions that are virtually identical, and it is an embarrassment. They're too similar. They're too large. Bringing the height down, they have put a dormer on this second structure, which makes the privacy issues even worse. The site plan has de minimis landscaping on it, and there is no landscaping in the rear to add any screening for this massive structure. And while it's 3,200 square feet or whatever they said, it actually is 6,800 square feet of livable space. The demands that this will make of two of these structures immediately adjacent to one another, on the roadways, on the noise, on everything, is transformative and not in a good way.
Any more public comment?
Yeah. I'm his mother. I'm 89 years old. I live on 140 Harvest Lane. I have been I've been in Southampton in the village in '69, and I purchased this house. I had another house before on Harvest Lane in 2001. I am very active in the beautification of this village. As you know, I created that rose garden at the library, and I myself have a beautiful garden now in the back of my property. However, these two lots are just in the back of so I went through the building of this big house, and there is a spa directly, and this is what I took, if you don't mind looking at it. It's the house. This is the back of my property, of the house that he had just already built. And, well, anyway, this, I feel I have 2,500 square feet in my house. But I have a beautiful home, no more than 4 bedrooms. I have a beautiful garden. I
This is
have,
not this application, correct?
that's the house
They're
next
back-
door. that
back to
he
you.
built.
Okay, okay. Do you have any comments about the architecture or?
Yes, I do. I find it very offensive that this neighborhood is being, that we don't have the neighborhood that used to be in this beautiful village. And I think you expressed it as well. Thank you. What's this here? Oh,
Thank you. Any more public comment? Our concerns, and I had to stay, unfortunately, I had to be consistent with my point of view with regards to requesting a person to reduce the size of their home. Still feel that way. However, we do have the jurisdiction on how it is portrayed, how it sits, and how it presents itself online. I've seen, like I said before, I see the other homes, and they have a huge impact. Huge impact. I think we saw recently I don't know if it was in news broadcast or the paper where they had a comparison between the two and just a viewpoint of what's new and what exists just adjacent to it. It was incredible, the impact. This is going to read large on the property. So I personally would want to see something, not asking you to reduce your square footage, I'm asking you to proportion it better and less impact, less grand presentation. That's what you're looking for, and I know that's what you were trying to do in the style of home that you built. Less is more. So we would like to see a less impact to the street, and a style that is more sensitive to the overall streetscape as it stands. Because I really believe that we potentially could have made two very big mistakes on your adjacent property on Corrigan Street. Anything further, Jeff?
Oh, no, I've said my piece.
Anything further, Christine?
No, I agree.
Anything further, Esther?
Yeah, one other comment on the parking and the view from Corrigan Street. The way your site plan looks, you've got 3 cars on a circular drive, 3 cars on the side, and then 2 more. It's going to look like a parking lot.
Actually, that actually did
In a
get
garage.
revised because we got denied for that curb opening.
You were denied on that curb cut?
The curb cut, yes, because it was too close to the existing trees. So Highway actually made us go between the 2 existing street trees in the center of the property. I can show you that.
So this
There's
is...
a parking court now?
Yeah, without getting into this, definitely need building approval. Yeah. As does everything.
Definitely not the right house.
Anything further, Ryan? Anything further from the public? Okay. If you can, you've heard the concerns of the board, or some of the concerns of the neighbors as well. We'll see you at the next meeting, and if you could take some of those in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn the application of Drew Schuttinger on Corrigan Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda. Next application.
Next application is Driftwood Estates. It's actually 2 applications.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Mezaneski. Myself and my wife Gretchen here in the audience are the new owners of the Knight Farm. I'm sure everyone's familiar. It's on the corner of Hill Street and Lee Avenue. Little history behind myself. My family moved to Bridgehampton 120 years ago as potato farmers. Been in the community ever since. The Knight Farm, we were attracted to it by the history behind it and the barn that was there. I really found pretty amazing. We've actually contracted with a Amish company that we have become good friends with. They've done a barn for us, 2 barns for us in the past, to restore the barn so that the barn can be there for another 100 years to come. We're not changing the square footage at all of the barn. We'll be utilizing the old beams and restoring whatever old beams need to be replaced. The outside will be cedar shake and barn batten boards as was used in the original construction. Square footage is the same. We're just going to restore it and bring it to its original grandeur. We are going to add some more doors and windows, but we are everything that would be consistent with the village. And
I know it's not directly in the historic district, but I question that.
it's on the, we did look, it's on the outskirts, and they came and did an
Yeah, I get that.
evaluation.
It's in the hallmark of, it's just a building of, at least a contributing structure outside of the historic district.
It's not contributing, but this is not the house, there's a
This is not the house, this is the barn.
Barn.
Yeah, barn.
And I did have them come and look at it. I have a letter from,
You had who come look at it?
they did come and look at the house and the barn and say there is no historic value to it.
Who, I'm sorry, who is that?
From the building department.
It would have been him.
Oh, really?
That's why I'm asking.
Were you there?
Okay, I have a letter in here.
You were there.
But is this a renovation of the barn to be the house?
No, not at all.
No. Oh, I see.
No, we're just restoring the barn as a barn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna
Restoring
be
the
some,
barn as a barn.
as a barn.
How wonderful.
And the reason we're
It's a
doing this
restoration, not a renovation.
is we are restoring the barn back to, you know, be an amazing barn, and we're in the process of drawing up plans for the house that will work off the barn, so it looks like an old farmhouse with the barn, and it fits what was there for hundreds of years.
Bravo.
Nice.
Bravo.
Just wondering why there's.
There's one there now. Yeah, no, there is one there now, and we're just gonna restore the one that's there.
Great,
If it had heat and water in there, it's,
great project.
Terrific.
Okay, so the construction of the cabana, let's do that next.
okay. One further comment I do have, I did get a phone call today from my neighbor to the south, and he did voice some concerns, which are actually my concerns too. And he was stating that, since the house was built behind and raised up in an elevation, it now floods in there, floods in a little bit into the back of my property and his property. And he also was concerned with the grade change and between the barn and the house. And we were gonna meet later this week and discuss, maybe him lifting his fence out, regrading it and replanting trees and doing a nice landscape between us and coming up with a solution so that we benefits both of us. And I'm looking forward to meeting with him.
Who is that?
It looks like someone's standing, so I'm assuming he is a her?
No.
Okay.
Wait a minute, excuse me. Excuse me. What owner are you talking about? The house that's under construction?
Yes, the one with the 5-foot high retaining wall on the back.
Isn't there another lot between yours and that house?
No.
You own all the way to that cement wall?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And it's, you know, it's basically a big cement wall with drain pipes draining onto my property.
Right. Thank you.
So,
Your name for the record,
White
please.
jobs.
Yes, hi, my name's Carrie Connolly. I am the wife of the person that Mr. Wisniewski spoke with today. And my husband had the notice of the change to 700 Hill Street was misnoticed. We received a mailed notice, but it said 700 South Hill Street. So my husband and I did not we thought a mistake had been made, and we got this notice by mistake. But then we were driving around just last weekend, and we saw the posted notice, and so we decided to come and to take a look at the building department. I have not had an opportunity to review any of the plans because I came this afternoon. My husband came in this morning, but he had to leave to get to work. I came in at sometime after 3, I think about 3:30, and the plans were not in the office because I believe the building inspector had taken them. So my husband apparently had and we've heard only the nicest things about this gentleman from the building department personnel, but I would just like to have an opportunity to see what's what and meet and talk with them, and we're looking forward to having great neighbors.
It's not an unreasonable request. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm assuming that's your wife, she's with you, so she has no comments?
Yes, yes.
All right.
And as I said, we're not
I don't
shooting
see anything in
square
the
footage,
file that says
anything.
anything about South Hill Street.
The notice was mailed to, the notice that we.
So the
received-
notice to you is mailed to the wrong address?
No, it said that the property that was being, the changes, the application was made in the name of 700 South Hill Street.
No, I don't see anything. Is there anything in the other application?
I'm looking.
Just so we can make sure it was properly noticed.
I don't see the,
I don't even see the notice.
Turn receipts in there?
There wouldn't be receipts if it wasn't historic.
We looked at what we received in the mail and we said, wait, this is a mistake. This doesn't apply to us because it's South Hill Street. So I don't believe that I kept that mailing, but I'll make that representation to you. I'm not misrepresenting anything about that.
Everything I have from the building department.
Do you have the notice?
Because we would have been on it much sooner had we known it was 700 Hill
Understood.
Street.
Do you have another copy of your posting now?
And we'll post it on the property. Would-
Who sent them?
Where's
out?
your affidavit
Did
of
you send
post-
them? Did you send them out directly
Yeah,
yourself?
the list of addresses.
Sorry?
That's just the list of addresses.
I think the issue was that there's an application for South Hill Street, which is directly behind them.
Well, no, the challenge is I don't even have your affidavit in file here.
You don't.
Are you posting on
no.
that?
I know it was submitted.
I'm
so-
sure it is, but what the challenge is, even though we're listening to the application, we don't have standing unless we can verify it and validate that you have your posting and mailing in file. It's not here right now.
I understand, yes.
Okay, so can you produce a copy of that? Unfortunately, even if we wanted to, we couldn't hear the application, substantive information of the application, or give a ruling on it because we don't have verification has been properly posted and mailed. You understand?
I'm a little lost because she
Okay.
says she did receive it.
Well, that may be the case, but, we have to understand, we have to review the information we
You
have here.
also
in
have
file.
to submit an affidavit to the file that you've done all the mailings and posted the placard for 10 days.
Yes.
So without those two documents, the board doesn't have jurisdiction to hear the appeal. So do you know if you filled them out?
Yes.
Submitted them to the building department? Because that would have, the affidavit of posting couldn't have been signed until today or.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you go, just return to the building department in the morning and see if they can track that down.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Now
you.
about the cabana, are we going to proceed or?
Can't proceed on anything.
So what do we do now?
We have to, we can't even adjourn. We don't have standing to even review your application.
Nothing from
So at this point, you would have to lay over to the next meeting. Or just go to the building department, review, make sure that they either misplaced it or they have it somewhere, it's just not in file. We looked at both files.
Okay.
Secondly, you did have a neighbor here that had not had the opportunity to review the file.
Okay.
We probably would have adjourned anyway for them to have
I
an
understand,
opportunity.
yeah, and I would like them to be able to review everything and make sure they're going to be
It would
living
be
next door.
probably neighborly just to reach out and say,
Well, that was the reason I had a 45-minute conversation with her husband today, because I wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. Okay, when is the next meeting, Mary?
next meeting
24th.
is, I'm sorry?
The 24th?
24th?
All right, well, thank you, guys. I
Thank you
appreciate
very
your time.
much.
you.
Have a Nice evening.
Not having any jurisdiction, we don't have the ruling to open, close.
Just
So,
continue it on the,
just continue.
continue it on the agenda.
All right. What's left are minutes from July 13th.
No, actually, they weren't approved.
Can I just point out that the minutes
I have that.
have the wrong heading?
I corrected
Okay.
it, and I got the message from
All right.
her as well.
Did you get my name in there? I don't think so.
Yes, I'll
Hamish,
take care.
okay. And no A in the name.
It's all taken care of.
B-R-O-D.
I promise, that is.
That's
and
okay.
I don't have that we did July 13th of last meeting. I don't know why we didn't, but.
So board members had the opportunity to review the minutes
Yes.
with all corrections and all necessary, that's funny.
It's just, it was like a one pack tenor, sorry.
Bringing back the ghost. Motion to approve July 13th, 2015 minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from July 13th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. July 27th, all board members were present.
Yes.
Motion to, any issues, questions, comments, or concerns? Motion to approve the minutes from the 27th of July.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from July 27th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And motion to close this evening's meeting.
Make a motion that we close the meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on August 10th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.